Welcome to Deal to Heal with E. James podcast. On this podcast, my guest and I will discuss topics and ways to help us to heal in every area of our lives. I believe that everyone can live a life that is happy, healthy, and whole. So I'm on a mission to help people to deal, heal, and fulfill. Deal with your problem, heal from the pain, and fulfill your purpose. Thanks for tuning in. Let's get to it. Hey guys, real quick, before we jump into the episode, I need you to do the 3 S's for me. What is that? First of all, I need you to subscribe to the channel so that you don't miss an episode of our podcast. Number 2, I need you to share it with your family and friends. Don't keep it to yourself. Share it with someone else. Lastly, I need you to say something. Leave us a comment. Let us know how we're doing. Let us know what you want to see from us, what you like, what you don't like. We are open to your suggestions. We want to know everything that you want to let us know about the podcast. All right. Now, get back to the episode. All right. Welcome to the Deal to Heal with E. James podcast. I am your host, Earnest James, and I believe that everyone can and should live a life that is whole, healed, and healthy. Therefore, I'm on a mission to help people to deal, heal, and fulfill. So deal with your problems, to heal from the pain, and to fulfill your purpose. Thank you guys once again for tuning in to the Deal to Heal with E. James podcast. If you haven't already, make sure you listen, like, subscribe, and share to our podcast on all of your podcast listening platforms. Also, make sure you guys are checking us out on our YouTube channel, which is the Deal to Heal Podcasting Network. Again, that's the Deal to Heal Podcasting Network on YouTube, where you will find the Girl Dad Discussions podcast, as well as the Deal to Heal with E. James podcast, which you are listening to and watching right now. Again, so that's the Deal to Heal with E. James podcast is there. The Girl Dad Discussions podcast is there on our YouTube channel, the Deal to Heal Podcasting Network. There's also some other podcasts that's on that channel as well. And we're going to be bringing you some more podcasts really soon. So make sure you guys lock in with us. So our goal is to have a podcast release every day of the week. And so we're working toward that goal. So make sure you guys lock in with us. Also, I am pleased to announce our podcast is being sponsored by our school platform, which is the Deal to Heal School for Living on the school platform. And again, this is just help us further our mission to help people to deal, heal, and fulfill. So on that platform, we are bringing you resources and workshops to help you get through some of the things in your life. So make sure you guys go check that out. The first 7 days is absolutely free. So you guys can go there and check us out on the school platform, for 7 days. You'll be able to look and check out our check out our workshops that we have, even download some of our ebooks and all of those things on the Deal to Heal School for Living on the school platform. Make sure you guys are checking that out. But today, just like any other day, we are blessed with a guest, Miss JC Sykes. How are you doing?
I am absolutely amazing today. Thanks for having me.
No problem. First of all, let me say thank you for being on, because you could have been anywhere else with anyone else, but you're here with me and my listeners, so we definitely appreciate it. So let's jump right in. Do me a favor, introduce yourself to my listeners. Tell us a little bit about who you are and what it is that you do.
All right, then. What's up, everybody? My name is JC Sykes, founder and Executive Director of Black Girls Build Incorporated. I am also the owner of 90 Degree Construction, and I am a multi-award winning author of multiple books in different genres. I absolutely love everything that it is I do. I've trained over 300 women in the last 5 years in carpentry, and I have actually trained at least 8,000 youth and put drills and hammers in these kids' hands, just introducing them to something that is not very common in areas where I come from. And so this has definitely been an honor and a privilege, and it's definitely been a path that's been laid for me by the Most High to walk, to guide, to lead, and to teach through DIY. So that's what Black Girls Build is. Black Girls Build Incorporated, our mission is to introduce women and youth to the construction industry through hands-on DIY workshop experiences. I allow the women and youth to come out to actual job sites where we're actually building and get their hands dirty to learn a little bit hands-on, because not everyone learns the same way. A lot of people learn differently. So hands-on, that's what we bring in. That's what it is I do. Happy to be here.
I love it. I love it. And I like how you emphasize the youth, women and youth.
It's really important to emphasize the youth because they are up next, and I'm trying to retire. So I rather, we got to plant those seeds early, because what is the Proverbs? It is easier. Oh, hold up. No, that's the scripture. It's easier to teach a child the way to go than teach an adult.
Mm-hmm.
That's somewhere.
Yeah. I don't know if it's scripture, but I've heard it.
I don't know if that's scripture or like African proverbs. I'm sorry. Right. So don't hold that. Don't charge me for that, y'all. Don't charge me for that.
No doubt. It's all good. I was really looking forward to this conversation for several reasons. Number one, definitely as my audience, I will hope that they know by now, but I am a 22. How many years it's been now, bricklayer, union bricklayer. I started off as a carpenter when I first got into building, and I knew at an early age that I wanted to be in construction. I just didn't know which lane I was going to go in until I got into, I want to say it was high school, but I think it was 8th grade. We ended up having to do an assignment where we had to, write about our career choice, what we wanted to do. And so that's when I actually started looking into the different trades in the construction field. And I came across bricklayer, and I was like, that's what I want to do. You know what I mean? And so my mind was made up since grammar school. And then, like I said, 22, 3, how many years later, I'm still rocking with it. So let's go back in your story, to tell us a little bit about, the earlier you, before you got into construction, and what even made you want to go down that field. What is your story and how you got started in this whole construction?
Okay, y'all ready? Y'all got some time? Y'all ready for this? Because I'm a storyteller too. Okay. First, the Most High work in mysterious ways, because first of all, you couldn't tell me that I would be a carpenter right now in life, ever. Never heard the title. I never heard the name, the term carpentry, nothing. I was a regular, hey, I want to be a doctor. My father's a doctor, and I thought I would kind of follow that path, but I always had a passion to help other people, just to care for other people. I'm a natural nurturer. So especially being a 16-year-old mom who wasn't supposed to thrive or make it in anything that I've done. But right out the gate, I was a 4.0 student in school, just that nerd that didn't look like the nerd. I was just that pretty nerd. And Section 8, welfare, you name it, the statistical single Black mom of 4. And I had been on Section 8 for like 5 years at the time, and they sent somebody out to do the inspection, to do the repairs. And this particular year, they sent this guy to repair some doors. And I was just courteous like I always am. I'm like, hey, I live here. If you need anything, let me know. He was like, okay. And then he just kind of smiled a little bit, I was like, oh, you got a really nice smile, And then long story short, here it is 15 years later, and we've been married for 10 of those 15 years. And it's my favorite story. And I can go into depth, but I'm not going to, just spend the whole time. But he smiled. I complimented him. We kind of talked a little bit, lost track of him, and then we started back talking, and we courted for a while. I mean, it was literally exactly 4 months before he even got a kiss. I wasn't even trying to go there. Let me tell you, I wasn't, but it worked out well. And he invited me out to a job site. Now, at the time, I was a nurse floating, doing different stuff. I worked in oncology cancer care, which was a very strenuous, very, very strenuous job. And I really wanted to change it. You never get used to watching people die. So came out to a job site one time. I'm bringing them lunch, and I'm like, if you're a carpenter, why are you on the roof? And he like, what do you think carpenters do? I'm like, lay carpet. Then I'm saying this so proudly, boldly, just like, I just know, And he laughed. And look, the toxic part of me at the time, like, look, he just like everybody else. Here, he laughing. So I Googled He said, well, Google carpenter. Now he's yelling this down from a roof that he's framing to Google carpentry. So I Google it and I see all of this woodwork and I see all this different stuff. I was like, I did this. Oh my goodness, that's what that is. Because I took a wood shop class as a freshman in high school. They never used the term carpentry. They called it wood shop. So I had no idea. And in the community I come from, I'm from St. Louis, Missouri. So when you from St. Louis, you don't hear about stuff like that from we from. And when I looked, I did apologize to him because I was just like, I'm like, I did apologize. And I was like, well, can you teach me some stuff? I'm one of those I am a happy, proud learner. I love to learn, and I hope for the rest of my life I'm learning. So he was like, yeah, you want to do this? I was like, yeah. I took a class as freshman. I aced it. I literally got an A+ in that class. And so he started teaching me a little bit at a time. I ended up like telling him when we actually committed to each other and got together, I was like, after about a year or two, I was like, you know what, I want to do this full time. He did not want me to do it full time because he knew the struggle for women in the construction industry, for one. And then he also was a union carpenter. So he also knew what women faced because he worked with other women carpenters. He was just like, man, I don't know, somebody gonna say something to you. And I'm just like, look, I got a whole lot of brothers and I've been taking care of myself for a long time. I'm not worried about that. I'm trying to get this skill, So I go into the union. I do the whole, union carpentry thing for a year. I quickly learned it was not something for me. I left the union proudly and we started our own business, 90 Degree Construction, and we have been thriving in business since August 2012. And so that is how I got into the construction industry. I left my nursing career to do something totally different because, again, I never wanted to see anybody else die. And I got great at what I do. Not great, I became a master carpenter, from my husband teaching me. I thought that I would learn when I was in the union, but I quickly learned that it's more like another number. You go where you're needed, you stay there as long as you're needed, you do whatever that task is, and everything else you may or may not learn. Now, that didn't sit well with me. So I'm just like asking my husband, when am I going to learn something else? When am I going to learn something new? He was like, well, you could be doing this for 3 years. You could be doing the same thing for. I'm like, well, how do you get versatile? So I got these questions and I'm just like, man, forget this. So leaving the union on bad, I didn't leave on great terms. I'm gonna tell you like that. And I don't feel bad about it. And ain't no shame. I'm just raw, like that. And we started doing our own thing. We get our own contracts. We get new construction, full gut renovations. We get a lot of major contracts alone. We are independent contractors. And when I saw how women were being treated in the union, it pissed me off because I'm a survivor of abuse and trauma and all of those things. And there is no reason to treat a woman less than because she is simply a woman. I mean, did you not come from a woman? Got mother, wives, sisters, daughters. And I saw men intentionally sitting back, really breaking women. And I'm not one of the ones that you can break so easily. I might look soft on the outside, but don't test these waters. So when I left, Black Girls Build was created simply from the abuse and the things I went through in the construction industry. It was so frowned upon in the beginning because of its name. They're like, oh, that's racist and oh, that's discriminatory. Now, I can very well be a literal person at times. So I say what I mean and I mean what I say. And a lot of people are not trained to understand or comprehend that, we beat around the bush. I'm not the beat around the bush kind of person. I'll warn you first, like, hey, look, this might be a little rough, but I don't really know no other kind of way to say this. And I mean it with the best intentions, with, the purest of heart. I don't mean no harm, And so creating Black Girls Build, I was just like, oh, I want to go somewhere and do something where Black women can come. It's for all women, but for Black women specifically. Why? Because I am one, and what I went through. This is my story, and a place where they can still learn a trade, build safe, feel like a sisterhood is building. You know what I'm saying? Help each other, talk to each other, heal with each other. We build sometimes. Women cry. Stressed out, depressed. Somebody might be going through a divorce. There's all kind of things we talk about in these workshops. So safety has to be first, and it's kind of like a double-edged sword because safety first in construction, we all know it's easy to get hurt out here, and then safety first as far as this being a safe space for us to be able to connect as sisters. You know what I mean? So Black Girls Build literally started from the bias and the treatment that I went through in the construction union and other women that I witnessed going through it. So Black Girls Build is just named because I am a Black girl who builds. It's literal. I will teach anyone who is interested, because where I came from when I was union, I don't care what color you are, what ethnic background you are. Every single woman was treated the same. So I represent and stand and I step for all women in the construction trade. Some women take, they take to it. Some women be like, they got that mentality. And that's cool. You gotta leave them where they are. But for the ones who want this sisterhood, JC Sykes and Black Girls Build Incorporated, that is what we are here for. We do not have an age limit. We started 5 years old, and then the oldest woman I ever taught was 78. So I just feel like if you feel like you can do it, come on, let me walk you through it.
Right. I love it. I love it. And I want to hit on a couple of things that you mentioned. Definitely, I am a union bricklayer. Have been union for 20, how many years I've been doing this. But like I said, I started as a carpenter first, and I am pro union, but I do know that there are things in every trade and every space. It just depends on where you are. I'm definitely I support everybody.
Yeah.
I just know union worked out best for me the second time around, right? So, and even within that, when I first got in as a bricklayer in Chicago, right? We did our initial, I think it's 12 weeks or something like that, where we're really learning, the tools of the trade, whatever. And then after that 12 weeks, it's like, all right, now you actually got to go out on the job site. And then this was in the 90s, right?
Yeah.
And at that time in Chicago definitely is a political city anyway,
Yeah.
so it's like, one hand washes the other, all of that stuff. They didn't do me good, right? So I was in there. I was in the union for 3 years. Never had one job. And, I would call the guy and was like, man, I'm trying to, I'm a first year bricklayer. I don't know nobody in construction or anything like that. So I'm just out here, a young kid. I think I was in my, I might not have even been in my 20s yet. But just trying to get out here and do what I wanted to, learn the trade. And at that time, the guy was like, all right, but this is not a hiring hall. You got to kind of find your own job or whatever, but I'll put you on the list, and I was like, all right, cool. As long as I'm in there. So over those 3 years, I would call, like, hey, I'm still out here. I'm still trying to do whatever. And he never called me. And then after at the end of the 3 years, right, I get a phone call. So I'm looking at my phone, first of all, like, oh, this dude finally called me, you know what I mean? And then he's calling me to go out on a picket. Because they was doing the picket, and he was like, would you like to be on this picket? I said, dude, I've been calling you for 3 years trying to get one job. I haven't had one job. And now you're calling me to be on a picket to help save somebody else's job when you've never given me a job. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, no, I'm not coming on a picket. I don't even want to be in a union no more. Yeah. And so I got out. That was then I was like, I'm out. So I got out. A couple years later, I got married and I moved to Indiana. When I moved to Indiana, my wife at the time went to a job fair, and the Bricklayers Union for Indiana was there. And so she got the information for me. And then, like I said, this was years apart, maybe 6 or 7 years later. If it was that, it might have been longer than that. But anyway, so she brought me the information. She was like, because she knew my whole story about wanting to be a bricklayer. And so she was like, you want to try it again or whatever? And I was like, all right, I'll try it again. Signed up, went through the whole process over. And 23 years later, I'm still at it. So I do know that there are, it just kind of depends on the date, the time, the place. You know what I'm saying?
It does. It's huge on the area. The area is huge. And I'm from Missouri. St. Louis is Missouri. It's a very red state and very unionized state. So I kind of represent something that they're not used to. I went against the grain, as they would call it. Me, I'm just doing what it is I am passionate about doing. There is no monopoly over who's doing what and how they're doing. There's plenty of work to go around for everybody, and not wanting to be in a union. And it's not that I'm anti-union. My experience in a union was not great. And most of the people that I know experience in a union was exactly the same way. What I'm saying is, I think that the union is one of those organizations where I think that if you can go into the union and make it out and last, that is the boot camp of construction. And yes, they have great pay and they have great benefits, but again, it is the boot camp of construction in my own personal opinion. If you can survive the mentalities, we don't give attaboys, the layoffs, if you can survive, the conditions of it, then I absolutely say, hey, you think you can do the construction industry? You sure? Go to the union. I'm going to recommend, especially the new ones, the young kids, I will recommend them to go to the union because they're not going to play with you. You cannot, it's just going to show you that you have to have a work ethic for one.
Yeah.
You got to be on time. You know what I'm saying? And 15 minutes early is on time. Don't get there on time because you got to get your tools ready. You got to get to the gang box. You got to stretch and flex. You got to do what you got to do. So again, I absolutely think the union is like the boot camp of construction. And I feel like if it's not for you, it's not for you because it's definitely not for everybody. And I get a lot of women to be like, man, I tried this and I tried this. You just make it look so easy. It's not that I make it look easy. Every master was once a beginner. This is repetition. And as a bricklayer that if you did it once, you're going to do it 1,000 more times. So it's just the fact that I've done this over and over and over again to the point where I never get bored, but I just wanted to help and give it to other women because do you know how many women are scammed on a regular basis by handymen that are posing as carpenter and contractors? And so I just was like, you know what? Because that's just my heart and spirit. I'm going to do some workshops and I'm going to start showing these women the fundamentals, the basics, and I'm going to call it Black Girls Build Incorporated. And that was it. It could have just been me and my girlfriends and then some more girlfriends and some more girlfriends. And we just doing it in our backyard. That's literally how Black Girls Build Incorporated started. And I started just doing the workshops, just putting the tools in their hands because there was so much fear from women around the tools alone, just the tools. And I too had that fear. Like I was like, I just know I'm gonna cut something off with this miter saw. I just know I'm gonna cut something off because when you go to the union, they show you the instances where somebody did cut something off, and so those stick with you and you put safety first. I don't care how cool it look. Safety has to be first, and one, you don't want OSHA on you anyway. You don't word of advice, don't want OSHA out there, So you got to respect what goes along with it. And I appreciate all of it because you can't be a good construction worker. I don't care what trade you're in if you're not really following the rules and being safe out here because it's easy to get hurt. So just everybody being a part of it and coming together and getting the same goal. That's always the end game, period.
Yeah. And I want to just hit on this right before I change it up a little bit because I know we talked about the union, and I don't even just say union, just say the construction industry. Depending on where you are, there's different things that you have to deal with, whether a man in construction or a woman in construction. Definitely, as a woman, you're facing a little bit more, right? So in where I am in the Chicagoland, Northwest Indiana area, we're heavily trades, heavily union, in this area, and because of the work that I do, I work refractory bricklayer. So I'm inside the mills and the factories and things of that, building furnaces and things of that nature. We have travelers, right? We have travelers in the trade that come from different parts of the country and different states. And I know one of our foremen, who's a friend of mine, she was maybe, when I got in as a first year apprentice, I think she was a third year apprentice at that time. And, years later now, on some jobs, she's the foreman. She runs the job. And so I remember having, a job a couple of years ago that we were on, and, we had some gentlemen from down south, and they came up and they just did not like a woman telling them what to do. What I mean? And it's like, and so a couple of them just got to the point. Some of them didn't last a week, what I mean? Some of them lasted a little bit longer, but it still was just like, they just couldn't do it. Just like, I can't have a woman telling me what to do, and they end up leaving. So I do know that, again, depending on where you are and just the construction industry as a whole, there's things that you have to do with, whether it's sexism or racism or
Yep.
whatever, again, like you said, if you think you can do it and you get out there and, get out there and fill it out. I just had my nephew just passed his test and everything and just joined the bricklayers just now. So I remember talking to him the other day, like, look, you talking about that on time. I'm like, 7 o'clock don't mean 7 o'clock. Because 7 o'clock, if you start at 7, I mean, you need to be on the scaffold at 7.
Yep.
You know
Yes.
what I'm saying?
Yes.
So you can't be just pulling up about I'm getting my tools. No, you got to be early.
Yeah.
So having that whole conversation with him about being on time and being work ready and prepared and definitely the safety and all of that. But again, just it's a good field to be in, and there's a lot of benefits of it. Whether it's any of the trades, whether especially working with your hands. I am a big promoter of learning something to do with your hands. Learn how to do something, even if you're a computer operator, whatever. You still need to know how to do something with your hands, because if worst case scenario, something happens in this world, you need to be able to do something, what I mean, with your hands.
Something.
Right, whatever it is.
Yeah. And what you say,
something.
like, to that point, just to add to that point, like, let's just take a pause real quick, deep breath. Whew.
Yeah.
In this world that we're living in right now, in this administration, and what we have seen, okay, the skilled will be the strongest ones to be able to survive. Worst case scenario, we got to get up out of our house and go head for the woods or something. That's another reason why Black Girls Build exists. Why? Because not all women have a man, a husband, a brother, a father there to help teach or give them something. And in worst case scenario, and I speak from experience, as a single mom, had anything happen where I had to take me and my 4 babies and go head to the hills and hide, I wouldn't have been able to do too much. But now, growing, healing, maturing, I know how to grow my own food. I can use whatever branches and sticks are out there in those woods and put a roof over our head. You feel me? So Black Girls Build is more than just Black girls building and looking good in tool belts. This is rooted work that we're doing. Ancient rooted work. This didn't come from me. I'm just an extension of my ancestors doing what was once done, what we're supposed to do, live off the land. You know what I'm saying? Know how to self-sustain. Because once a woman knows how to use tools and do what I can do, let me tell you. And it's never a thing against our men or our brothers. I love my brothers. I love our men. I have worked with hundreds of men while in this construction industry. And you want to know something? I saw all of them do things differently, and I learned something different, no matter how small. I learned a different way from every man I've ever worked with. I'm not a woman who's trying to be a man, okay? I know my strength and I know my limits. So the men on my construction job site, because I'm out there and I'm the one that's running it and I'm in a tool belt when needed. I absolutely don't lift anything heavy anymore. No, sir, I do not. That's what we train. We all went through that part where we were the apprentices and we had to bring all the heavies. I did that. I'm not doing that no more. That's why we continue to recruit the young folks, and teach them the way so they can keep it going. But in the world we live in, you are so right about having to have a skill, because one, skilled construction workers of all trades, very, very soon, we're going to be higher paid than doctors.
Yeah.
Because the skill is so limited. And let me tell you, everybody in every state, everywhere, probably even in other countries, they're hurting for manpower, skilled, knowledgeable manpower that's dependable, that can show up. And I speak as literally, I'm a business owner and we're residential. So we build new construction homes and remodels all year round. And it is so hard to find good work that shows up and they stay with it. And they, the moment they get sore, or they get a splinter, they out of there. You know what I mean? So that just keeps us, having to be out there. And I remember doing a research a couple of years back. It was only 10% out of 10 million construction workers nationwide in the United States, only 10% were women. And of that 10% that were women, only 2.5% actually work physically in the industry. Okay. And all the other 7 or so percent, they were like in management, or, they were driving or something like that. So
Right.
they really got a lot of laws in place now for women to be able to come, be in the construction industry, because now they're finding these companies who are not hiring women, minority women. And
Mhm.
I think that changed too with everything that's going on in the world. And they were just like, look, with the whole, we gonna get rid of the equal, all of that. I don't even want to name nothing because I ain't no political person. Don't even act like I'm trying to be, because
Right.
yeah. But when you get into that area of things and those numbers, it shows a pattern. And that pattern has steadily decreased, increased, decreased, increased. So what do we do to maintain retention in this industry? The one thing I've learned is there is a language in the construction industry that has not changed in over 100 years since the unions existed. It's the same exact language since day one that needs to change, because there is no way in this world, on this earth, that the mentality and the way that they treat people in the union, the way that they talk to them, the way that they're just another number, the way that these new generations, they are born sensitive or depressed. There is no way that you can, use that kind of talk and mentality and that weaponization of emotions against these people. They need to know that they go doing a good job. They need to know that they getting better. They need that. It's a total different day and age. So that's what we bring with Black Girls Build Incorporated. You're going to feel like you're a part of it. Ain't nobody going to feel stupid. Ain't nobody going to feel like an airhead. Nobody is going to bully you or target you.
Yeah, yeah. And again, we're talking across the board, and then definitely, again, when you the different spaces, depending on where you are, there's different experiences,
Yes.
and so, your experience may be different from, the person next to your experience.
Yep.
But I would definitely say if you have a willingness, just start there to learn any kind of trade or something. I would definitely say go for it. Then I will also just mention this before I change our topic a little bit. Even in this AI, generation, and there's so much, robots and whatever, even with that, and people are like, well, you're going to be replaced or whatever. Somebody got to build a building. Somebody, you know what I'm saying? And even like right now, they're building like all these data centers, right? And they was like, well, AI is taking over, and that's why they're building all these centers. You still got to build the center. You know what I mean? You still got to run the electric. You still got to put the roof on.
I mean, the thing is, I don't think people really grasp the fact, but they are trying. They are already, you can look it up on YouTube. They already got some different kind of AI models attempting to build buildings and things like that. But personally, it's going to take a long time for them to, perfect AI just completely building buildings. But again, these are skills that no one can ever take from you. Mm-hmm. Everybody needs them everywhere in the world. So no matter where you are learning these skills, I don't care what laws on how they do things where you at. If you decided to move to another country, like a lot of people are, you can take these skills with you, and you always got a job. You always can have a job, teach your kids, your grandkids. You can always, these are skills that are irreplaceable. It's no different. That's why they had home ec and stuff back in the day. Taught you how to cook and things like that. Those were skills that stuck with you. So even if you don't like the construction industry or not, and like you said, if you just got the little bitty itch, like, I would like to know how to do that, I recommend doing it, because honestly, I don't ever work. I don't work because to me, it's just like I'm playing in the dirt, going outside like when I was a kid, doing some other stuff. It's just that I'm building stuff, but I get to see this structure start from the very start to the very finish. And I just stay in my lane. I don't claim to be a bricklayer or something like that. When you share your story, I'm like, for real? And then what else? Because I would love, as a carpenter, the opportunity to go learn from people like you in the other trades. You know what I'm saying? Where do you go do that at? Who can do that for you? Do I just walk up to a job site and say, hey, can I shadow you today? You know what I'm saying? And without going into a union. So that's why Black Girls Build, we are here, and then just trying to connect with other women who are in all the other trades, who are willing to, donate their time and come and teach and give back whatever trade they're in, because I want to learn too. I don't want to be the only person teaching, So at some point as we grow, I hope to have instructors of every other trade that are women. I said women. I didn't say a color. If you are a woman and retired, or you ready to retire, you just want to do something else, I'm the carpenter. I do the carpentry workshops. You want to do some bricklaying workshops? You want to come do some, electric, some little, you know what I'm saying? That is how community is supposed to work. It's old school mentality, but sometimes you got to get back to the old school to just even start, because a lot of stuff today is moving so fast that no one is really taking in that you cannot skip the journey and just, social media show you the beginning, and then it show you the beautiful, beautiful end. And then all the stuff in the middle is missing. And so everybody is going after that end goal so they can look and be like doing what I'm doing. And they miss every single battle, struggle, war, everything in the middle that built this character to be able to be here now, to be able to talk about it and tell the next generation.
Yeah, and that's that missing part. And I'm gonna kind of touch on that a little bit, right? Because I want to talk about, healing through building, right?
Yes.
And so just sharing a little bit more about my story as a bricklayer. I went through a season, and it wasn't just it actually didn't have anything to do with the bricklaying, but it just was the season of life that I was in. Ended up going through what I call a D life, right? I did my TEDx talk, my first TEDx talk about 2 years ago, I think it was. And I talked about it just at this time period, just going through divorce, going through a depression. I think we were in a recession at that time. So I was in debt, just a whole lot of things going on. And then my mother-in-law died, and then my mom died, right?
Oh,
and so I was going through this whole season in my life, what I call a D life. It's like all the D's, right? Divorce, depression, everything you can think of. And so I started having suicidal ideations at that time. Thank God that he allowed me to make it, through that time period. But what I realized, even on the job site, I remember being on the job site, going through it, you know what I'm saying? And I remember even as a minister sitting in the pulpit during that time and crying because I'm dealing with this thing that's on my mind. And so coming through all of that, I realized how mental health, even though now is more talked about, but just really realizing how much mental health is important, right? And then as I also started looking into the in different industries, I realized, or I found out, that the construction industry is like one of in the top 10 of suicides,
Yes.
And I definitely understand why, because one, it's a male dominated, industry, and, men never want to look weak for one another. And so we're holding all this stuff in and not talking about it. However, just, in the sense of learning to build and learning to, learning different things, it allows you to express yourself in a different way, especially creatively. And so, as part of what you do, and I know you mentioned a little bit earlier, I know part of it was before we started recording, but as you have these women and you're teaching them these new things, and then they're finding out, more things about themselves, and having that sisterhood to be able to have a safe space on these job sites. How has that journey been, for yourself first, and then even for some of the women that has came through your program, to really be able to express themselves and have that safe space of learning something new?
You know what? I have, growing up, I have 6 biological sisters, and it's 14 of us all together, right? So I got the best. And I'm the youngest out of everybody. I'm the baby. I've always kind of gravitated with my brothers because my sisters were already out of the house before I was even a teenager.
Mm-hmm.
And so I've always been that tomboy, basketball, track star, just tomboy, but I always loved a boy. Don't get me wrong. That's it. I love a man, but, in Black Girls Build, let me tell you something, and it's going to make sense and it's going to resonate with who it resonates with. I have met women who were more like sisters than I've ever experienced in my own life. And I mean, these women have come in older, younger, and taught me things and talked to me. And I learned things and I got over, phobias that I had by talking to these women. And these women were not just participants in my workshops. So many of them we talked and they just healed me just a little bit more just during that sisterhood, when we're building together and we're, just connecting and we're talking. So I am a better woman. I'm a better human just because of the sisterhood that has been created over time with meeting all these different women and even some of the teenage girls, because I have worked when I go to the schools, because I'm in elementary schools, middle schools, high schools, colleges. And when I go to some of these schools, it's they usually, because I'm one of them known as what they call me, a ball buster. I didn't even know what that term was. I had never heard of it. You know how the construction union is, and they have these. So they was like, man, JC, she's a ball buster. And I'm like, okay, what's the ball buster? That's me. I'm that person. So when I learned what it was, so now when I go to schools, this one time they wanted to give me all the bad girls, all the girls with the issues. And what I learned was these girls don't got no issues. They're who I used to be when I was in school. Misunderstood, running households at home. Some of them already mothers. Some of them just literally trauma. They're in survival mode. And so I recommend that when a school reach out to me, you give me everybody that you can't handle. I want them because those are the ones right there you're not paying enough attention to. So with every workshop and every single class or things that I visit, I'm so intentional to listen and to feel what these women are not saying, because I am a Claire. I'm a Claire in a lot of different ways. I'm empath and I can't help it, and plus I bring my medical background with me. So I know when something is off. I've had workshops where women had to pull me to the side and say, hey, JC, I got, a restraining order right now. And my husband is in, and is it okay if you not post any pictures of me? Because I don't know, I want him to know where I'm at for him to come to the workshop. So that was like a huge red flag for me, because I am also a survivor of domestic violence at times too. And when we look at the news every day, we see these women on here ending up, and I can honestly tell you, we have had to protect each other in these workshops because of this, because there's been times, again, when these husbands trying to find out where we at, they pull up and now I got to have security. And if I don't feel safe, the women I'm teaching are not going to feel safe, and it's really a big deal that people don't think that is. People think you do everything for clout. People think, it's attention seeking, but it's some real life stuff going on behind these scenes that people don't know. So to me, it has been the sisterhood that I never actually got to have in real life. And even the men that I work with, no, I won't, Black Girls Build is for women and youth, because what you said earlier, a lot of men have a problem with who I am, how I bring it, because I'm arrogant. These are people who cannot understand what confidence and self-love and understanding yourself is. They can see a video of me and my husband building side by side. And guess what? They're going to attack me. They're never going to attack him, and this is something that, you got to have a different kind of skin being in this industry as a woman, especially as a Black woman. They want to label us with these attitudes and all that. I am the nicest person until I am not. And the moment that I am not, I am going to cut the cord and I'm going to disconnect, because that's what's safest for me, not you. It's what's safest for me. So disconnecting is very, very, very vital. But in these workshops, it is also very vital to connect with women. And I'm talking about any woman. I connect with women. I just one of them people who we do that because it's authentic. And when you're in your authentic energy isn't capable of lying, Yeah. So I don't only, teach these women stuff. They heal me too. So it's a two-way street. This is one of those deals going on right here. So that's what this is what it has done for me. I am a better human. I can communicate a lot better. I'm a lot more confident. My self-esteem has increased a whole heck of a lot. And I appreciate the 300 plus adult women, I can't even get I appreciate every single soul who has ever trusted me with teaching them something that I hope that stays with them for the rest of their life and wherever they go.
Yeah. And I think it's so important. And that's why I wanted to hit on that. And I've shared this story before too. The importance of our stories, right? Because you mentioned about how originally they was like, okay, we're going to give her the bad girls, and then now you're like, yeah, that's who I want, because we're not, they're overlooked and not listened to. And you have the opportunity to share your story because you were them, as you said.
Yeah.
So I know that that's important because even now on the job site, and I've shared this before, but I want to share it again, but recently, so on the job site, we got the bricklayers and we have our laborers. And our laborers, we work hand to hand together. And this particular day, it was just me, just the two of us, me and this other laborer. And we've worked together as a group, but we've never worked one-on-one with each other. So this was our first time, just the two of us working together, because it was a small project. So it was just us two, working on it. And so we began to, just having a conversation. And he asked me what I did, that previous weekend. And so I said, well, I had a speaking engagement, and I have a podcast. And so he's like, oh, so what are your podcasts about? So, I kind of gave him the spiel of how I started and talking about depression and suicide ideation and all of that. And that kind of got his attention. So he was like, tell me more about it. So I told him about my TEDx talk. I told him about, having suicide ideations and, going through that whole deal. And so he began to talk to me and he said, he has had suicide ideations himself, but not only that, it's been in his family, and to the point that his father actually committed suicide, and he was the one that actually found his father's body, and so we had this whole conversation, probably like a 30-45 minute conversation, and then we had to break and go to lunch. So we went to lunch and we came back. So when we came back from lunch, he said, Ernest, I want to tell you something. Like, you're a cool guy to talk to, because the conversation we just had, I've never told anybody. So I think about that. And that's not the only instance that has happened, and that's why I'm so vocal about, telling my story and telling the fact that I've had, suicide ideations, and I've really thought about not being here and what that would do, for my family and those different things. And I think that it's important that we share those stories so that people know that they're not alone, And so just on the, on the job site, like you said, having that sisterhood, and you were able to talk to these women and know that life is life. And like, the job site is one thing, but the job site is only a piece of the puzzle of your everyday life.
Just
you know
piece.
What I mean?
Yes.
And sometimes, your life goes where you go. So when you come to the job site, all those things come to the job site too.
Let me tell you,
they leave it in the parking lot, but sometimes it makes it on the scaffold.
It does, and that's something that you got to be careful about too, because again, while people try to make the job hard for one biased reason or another, they forget that if you are out there and you are stressed out and you are overwhelmed and you are depressed with what happened yesterday because somebody got killed and you're going through this, it is still very easy to be distracted here, and then you can get hurt here. You know what I'm saying? So something that I also learned that changed me. You asked me about sisterhood and working with the women, but let me tell you about the brotherhood and working with the brothers. Having so many brothers of my own. And I mean the brothers, the ones that's out there in the streets. I got the nephews, you name it. I got 65 nieces and nephews, and I already buried 5 of them to the streets. 5 nephews to the streets. And what I've learned by being out in construction, my heart breaks for my brothers. Because like you said, men hold everything in. They don't share nothing. They don't have not one homeboy that they're really being completely honest with, because they're too afraid of their pride. So I've become the mother hen on those job sites. These men come and tell me stuff. It go from initially, oh, dang, she fine, look good in the tool belt and then we talk. And there's a respect. Like, dang, JC deep is like, I want to talk to her again, because again, I watched them go through divorces. One of the biggest ones that break my heart every time it just be hard to talk about is the ones who are raising their children because the baby mamas done left. They ain't doing nothing, or they got some terrible ones. Oh, let me tell you, as a woman who didn't have baby daddies who wanted to stay if they couldn't have me too, doing it on your own is hard. I don't care which way it goes. Every mother ain't the best. You know what I'm saying? Every mother ain't there, just like they put that on deadbeat baby daddies. I work with some men, and we make nice money in the construction industry. A known fact is the construction industry is one of the top 7 highest paid industries in the world. Okay. So these women, I see these men stressed out. I mean, they working mad and they working furious. And I see they're beating their bodies down. They not eating. They go grab a hot dog, a slice of pizza, cholesterol high. Then they asking me all these health questions because I bring my nursing to the field. And these men, although they look healthy and all this, they are in terrible health condition, mentally, physically, emotionally. And so as a gardener, I'm a certified herbalist, and I'm really big on herbal teas and eating things that are good for you, that are good for your emotion, that are good for your mindset, your mood. And men don't know none of this. The ones that from my community, I work right in the communities that I was born and raised in. So working along all these men who are neglecting their bodies, they are neglecting their health because there is a system that's so far against them. They are battling to see their kids. They're battling to be a part of anything. They battling to just get some money to pay child support, or they get locked up because they owe child support. And then they got their license suspended. Like when I tell you, as a woman, I have grown to just love. My best friends in life, they've always been males. I got a few from my very few women from my childhood, but my best friends have always been male because I can identify with them. I can feel for them because I saw this in each one of my brothers. I've got 8 brothers and not one of them graduated. They all turned to the streets. They don't know, love is limited, and I see this in all the men I work with. And I married a man who both parents in his house his whole life, but still so much missing, still so much healing that had to be done, that needs to be done, that has to be done. And they don't know where to start. Don't say therapy in our community, therapy, she crazy, it's people like me go to therapy because of people like that, and it's such a taboo. But therapy is not a solution. That is not the solution. Therapy is simply an opportunity to figure out with someone who don't know you with unconscious bias. Well, unconscious, they can't have no bias. Just somebody here listening to you to try to help you figure out what's hurting you, why, how far back does this go? Is this childhood trauma or is this right now trauma? Are you overwhelmed, stressed, depressed, or do you have mental illness? So a lot of people, especially, and I speak from experience, they don't want to know. They will tell me, JC, no, I ain't going to no doctor. I don't want to know what I don't know won't hurt me. Let me just drop this. I'll say this. And this is real deep because we on the podcast. My twin brother died 16 years ago from AIDS. He had HIV. It progressed. This is when I was in nursing school. And it progressed, and I ultimately watched my twin brother deteriorate, then died. Hardest thing I ever went through in my life. And there are so many people. He only had one sexual encounter with one person in his life that he got this. And there are so many other people who do not believe that who do believe that what they don't know won't hurt. And there's so many people who believe that just, it ain't gonna happen to me. It ain't gonna happen to me. And so that is just a testimony to take care of yourself. You don't ever think it can't happen to you, and don't think just because you look good and you feel good, it ain't you. So that's one of those deals where for my brothers, I hope that they can lay their pride down, but you got to kill that ego.
Yeah.
You got to kill the ego. And the ego is something that I learned that either you can learn from it and grow from it, or it's going to kill you and it's going to destroy everything that you have because of this ego. You know, you have to surrender to the Most High. You got to surrender to God and let that go. And a lot of us, I think anybody in this world from the Black community, okay, in the United States, from the Black community, I think everybody suffers from PTSD. Mm-hmm. Because in our communities, come on, we're born into it. You know, I have battled depression, you know, just for most of us do. But again, you have to learn from it. You have to learn, and everybody not strong enough to get themselves out of it. You go to therapy, learn how to cope. And when you go and you actually be honest with the therapy, because let me tell you, people will go to therapists. How you gonna go to the therapist or lie to the therapist? How right. Is the therapist supposed to help you, you know, where you really need it, you know? So in the Black community, it's so hard to be vulnerable because you don't want to be judged. I'm just speaking for myself. But when I went to the therapist, I'm telling everything. Look, is something wrong with me? My therapist, we cool now. She'd be like, girl, she just think I'm funny because she'd be like, why do you think something wrong with you? That was put in you. I heal from a lot of childhood trauma. And when you get evaluated and all that, you know, you can learn to be yourself when you let it go. And you'd be like, dang, I didn't know that wasn't normal. I didn't know I wasn't supposed to do that. So you really get to that point where they say death and rebirth. You really have to allow a certain a part of you to die. You got to allow your whole self to die. And then you got to be willing to unlearn everything that you learned. And then you got to be willing to relearn. A lot of people are not teachable. A lot of people are not open to learn something new, especially in the older generation. No, you know, it just is what it is. You get cut off and then you basically a zombie because you can't learn nothing else. So you dead now, right? You walking around here dead because you can't learn nothing else. So I'm talking to a zombie. All right. So I'm not listening to you. I mean, for real, just if you want to say it on a factual, you ain't trying to do nothing. And trust me, I know, because before we started recording, remember, I was like, look, I'm not tech savvy like that, but I do what I can do. This is a choice. I know a whole lot of things, and I'm expert in a lot of different areas, but it's some things you're just not interested in. The tech part of it is one of those things for me. And so you got to be willing to say where you're weak. And doing the whole technology thing, I'd rather hire somebody to do social media, because if I didn't have to be on social media, you would never see me. But it's a part of the new community. It's a part of the new world, and we got to get into it. You know what I'm saying? To me, unfortunately. But hey, here we are doing a podcast, and I am really thankful.
I'm loving this conversation. We might have to do a part 2 because we already on the hour.
I'm looking forward.
But before we get out of here, I do want to talk about something else, right? And so one of the things that we talked about is you being an author. Definitely you mentioned 6 books and more on the way. And I'm just like, what? You know what I mean? So I want to talk about your memoir. I love it. I want to talk about your memoir because you mentioned that one, and that one was the one that became made you an award-winning author. Yeah. So let's talk about that one as much as you please.
All right. So you know what, y'all?
Talk about that one.
When I wrote this book, I'm gonna give y'all the backstory because everybody want to know how they said I was really courageous to share some of the things that I shared in this book. And so when I hold this book, you got to understand this was a death that happened. The way that I wrote this book is was so unplanned. I never planned to be an author, but I've been writing since I was 6 years old. Literally, I still have the exact same journals when I started writing from then all the way up to now. Still got them. So when my twin brother passed away in 2010, I didn't think that I was handling his death healthy. And so I went to a therapist, and I wasn't handling his death at all. I was just numb. So she was like, well, what do you do for yourself on a regular basis? And of course, all of my I've seen 3 therapists in my lifetime, all 3 of them Black women. That matters. Representation is vital. And I'm sorry, I'm willing to talk to somebody who can really relate to me on all levels. So I went to her, and this was an older Black woman. And she asked me what I did, and I thought it was a trick question. I'm like, here we go. That's why people don't go to therapy. That's me, right? She was like, what do you do for yourself? I'm like, I'm a single mother of 4. That's it. I'm a full-time mom all day. My son was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes at age 6. I had my youngest daughter was born with a very rare condition that kept me in the hospital and surgeries all the way until she was 14. And so I just was like, I don't do nothing. She was like, well, I want you to go home and write how you feel. I said, okay, cool. Now, I was a nerd in school. I loved doing an assignment. So I'm like, cool, I'm going to go home and write. I had 2 of my nephews living with me at the time, and they looked after the kids. So I went, got my notebook, and I'm writing. I ended up writing for 72 hours straight. Stopped and drink some water, stopped to use the bathroom. Didn't eat nothing. I just wrote, I cried, I wrote, I cried, and I just got it all out. And once I got it all out, I felt like something was lifted. I didn't even know I needed to get this stuff out like this. It was stories that came up in times that I completely think I pushed down. And so I wrote this in 2009 before my twin brother died. I started it. And before he died, he said, you better finish writing that book or I'm gonna come back and hunt you. He was one of them people. He did, because my twin brother, he wanted to die. He did not want to live. He wanted to die. He told me he did, and he made me plan the funeral, but I understood and I respected it. And so I did. And he told me to finish writing the book because I was that scapegoat, the black sheep of the family. So everything was always my fault. I was targeted for everything. I was bullied. And I just was the kid that cried, and I was very sensitive. So he was like, you better finish writing that book. And I was like, okay. Fast forward. I did not publish this book until 10 years after I wrote it. And I couldn't afford to publish it. It wasn't supposed to be a book. It was just a therapy assignment. And I remember reading my notebook that I wrote that day to those nephews who were staying with me, like a bedtime story. And it was like, man, TT, that can be a story. That can be a whole book. And I was like, So I went to the library. I checked out a book called How to Write a Book. And I started following those steps. And that is how I wrote this book. It became an award. It was nominated for an award in 2017. Now, when I got the email, I was just like, oh, okay, that's cool. It was like 1,000 books were chosen and yours was one of them. Congratulations. I'm like, sweet. Then I get another email that said, you made the top 100 book pick. I'm like, oh, okay. I'm still not tripping off. Well, I'm on a job site getting these text messages. So I ain't tripping. I'm literally on the roof, like, no, I'm like, oh, that's cool. I'm like, baby, the book is 100 now. That's kind of how I'm treating it. I get another email. They say your book made it to top 45. And I'm like, whoa. So out of all of these books, my book was chosen. And I couldn't believe it. Like, get out of here. Top 45. Then I get another email. I made the top 20. What? Now, what does this mean now? Like, what's happening? So mind you, I'm still on the job site when I'm getting these messages. So then they told me when they made the top 10 finalists, I said, get out of here. Like, you just could have bought me for a penny. And when it came down to the day, I could not afford to be where the book signing was. I was still, not a single mom, but still struggling, still unable to get there. So it was in Colorado. I'm in Missouri, in St. Louis. So I had to watch it from Facebook. So I'm watching on Facebook. They announcing the winners and they announced my book. I still have the video. It is like one of those videos that when I watch it, it do something to me. And I was watching it with my kids and my husband. And when they announced my book as their winner, I cried. One, because I wrote this book. I did what I told my brother I would do. I'm getting emotional now. I finished this book. Like I said, I told my brother I would. And this book is both of our voices. We were both survivors of childhood trauma, abuse, molestation. So writing this book, I knew why he wanted me to write it. So a lot of stuff I didn't put in here, but I am working on the sequel and the part 2 and being able to write the children's book that I wrote. Like one of them in particular, I call it, this is my twin brother and I call Kobe and Chase, Twin Roots in the Garden They Grew. So my pseudonym that I use, JC Sykes, those are actually my initials and my twin brother initials. So anytime you call me JC, it's recognizing him and it's remembering him as well, because we had the same exact initials. So JC is the twins that, we once were. We're always twins, but he's not here physically. And so when this book, like I said, won an award, It was just God telling me that I was doing what I was supposed to be doing, confirming that I was on the right path, confirming, and this was my first time ever writing it. So the first time writing a book, and I did it all myself. I tried to go the traditional way and it didn't work out. And then I republished it under my own, and it has touched a lot of people. I think the best feedback I've ever received from my book was, man, I had your book in my purse when I was at the club and I accidentally pulled it out and I read your book the whole night at the club and I never even got up to dance. Like, that's the best compliment I ever got. And they was like, man, like, you never know what someone is really going through. You never know, because I don't look like nothing that I went through. And I refuse to, because I am not a product of my circumstances. I went through some stuff. Yes, it changed me, but it also grew me. I am thankful, because I would not be here talking to you and, you know, all of these people who are going to be listening if I had not went through something. Most people who are, you know, in a position and who, you know, are thriving, that stuff didn't happen overnight and it wasn't handed down. I didn't have an inheritance. I didn't have any backing. I had me and my husband working with these every single day. Our kids even helped us in this industry. We hired all 4 of them. We fired all of them too, but we hired them. We hired them and they got the skill and they made some good money, and they have a skill that they can, no matter what, fall back on if they choose to. And they're all grown, and we empty nesters now, and we absolutely love in our free time as empty nesters. But there is a story behind the build. We in building and healing and building goes together, because on those days that we talked about earlier, when we go out there on that job site and we just stressed, I take a hammer and go beat the hell out of something to relieve some of their stress. Sometimes I will build a box out of some of the scrap wood out there. I do this in workshops too. Build a box out of scrap wood, completely put it together, plywood and everything. Take the sledgehammer on them hard days, and literally, because you know that sledgehammer, you're gonna be tired. So I take that, and that is some of the ways that I relieve stress, you know what I'm saying, just to feel better. You know, you don't got to go bleed on other people. You don't got to go, you know, abuse and do these things to other people. I am in an industry where you don't got nothing but the opportunity to relieve some stress. So again, healing, I call it healer builders. We are healer builders because we teach you how to heal while we're building. We teach you how to use everything you got to get what it is you want. And I took that from the Players Club. Yes, I did. You know how they was like, yeah, you what you got to get. Well, I just thought that was a very negative way to tell young girls. You know, I think that was a very, and I see it's like, dang, everybody took that literally. So many people took it literally and they was doing it. You know what I'm saying? So Black Girls Build is still using what you got to get what you want, because I built my own house. And being able to build your own house when you are in this industry, you know good and well, it's all of our biggest desire to build our own house. And my husband and I got to do that 8 years ago. So we are thankful. And every piece of my history and every piece of my story is what has built Black Girls Build. Everything that I do is built on passion. So my era, and the name of my book is pronounced My Era. These are my children's initials from oldest to youngest in order, because it is an era of time associated with something. In this case, it's an era of time associated with me. And I would not be who I am without being the 16-year-old mother who persevered in the face of all the overwhelming odds that were meant to break me. They were meant to keep me in place, and they were meant to hush and silence my throat chakra, my voice. It might have worked for a little while, but when you are chosen and when you are anointed, nothing is going to stop what God has for you. And I know that. It's just that other people got to catch on and stop messing with me, and then they might have some better luck. I'm just saying, you gotta leave certain people alone. We got people on the other side who walk with us. And let me tell you, my ancestors walk with me, because that's exactly how you found me. And that's exactly how we are here today. And moving forward, I hope that I can connect with people you've had on here. We talked about other people in the past. I look forward to meeting some of these women who got organizations where our missions align. And let's take this nationwide, because as of now, Black Girls Build is no longer centered in one spot. I am literally right now on the road, state to state, city to city, visiting classrooms, literally presenting, doing workshops. That is what I have done with Black Girls Build. Right now, for the last week, I saved this for the podcast, but for the last week, I have been to Maryland, North Carolina, South Carolina, Tennessee. I'm outside. And I am coming to introduce myself directly to all of these certain organizations. So if there are any organizations out there, I hope that they reach out to me and we can just get to know each other and maybe get a workshop going in that city.
Right. I love it. And if you swing around Chicago area, definitely hit me up and we'll.
You better stop. I'm always in Chicago.
Hey, well, we gotta hook up. We gotta hook up then and make something happen. Man, we definitely have to do another interview, right?
Yeah.
Because I really want to get into the book, right?
Yes.
And because I'm just listening to some of the things that you're sharing, just talking about it, and being a person, whether in ministry or just the person that I am, to have different conversations with people, to share my story and my experiences, and to hear other people's experiences. I know that there's a healing part of it that not all of us are able to share. And so once when you write a book and when you put different things out there that connect with people and help them in their healing, that's definitely something to that I want to push even more. So we definitely gonna have to do a part 2 and really just focus on the book and those principles and things that we and that journey. So we're definitely gonna do that. Man, I want you to. Yeah, you left us with so many nuggets already, but I'm sure you still got more. So I want you to have the last word. I want you to leave us with a word of advice or information, or have a motivation, however you feel, and also give us your social media handles and things of that nature where we can find you at. So I'll give you a couple of seconds to think about that. To my listeners, thank you guys once again for tuning in to the Deal to Heal with E. James podcast. Listen, make sure you guys are checking us out on our website, dealhealfulfill.org. Again, that's dealhealfulfill.org. Make sure you guys are checking us out there. Also, ebooks by E. James. As I told you guys before, if you are a listener, that website is going away, and it is gone. Right, it is going to, so you cannot get my ebooks at ebooksbyejames.com anymore. However, you can get them, all of them, absolutely free when you check out our school platform, right? The Deal to Heal School for Living platform. The first 7 days is absolutely free. You guys can go there and check it out. Once you do that, you can go to the resources tab and you'll be able to download all the ebooks absolutely free. So again, go check us out there. You can scan the QR code in the corner and that'll take you directly there. So you can get all the ebooks that we used to sell, but now we're giving them to you for free. So go to the Deal to Heal School for Living on the school platform in order to take advantage of that, and also check out the workshops and resources that we have there. Deal to Heal Tees, our inspirational t-shirt line. Make sure you guys go check us out there. Again, that's Deal, the number 2, healtees.com. Put some inspiration in your situation. Wear an inspirational tee and be inspired all day. That is our tagline. Make sure you guys go there and check us out. Also, one of the things that I've been blessed to be a part of over the last couple of years now is a organization called the Forgiveness Mission. And what we do, we have free virtual workshops bi-monthly talking about the area of forgiveness of self, forgiveness of others, forgiveness in the world, even forgiveness and healing with your body, how unforgiveness affects your body. So those workshops are absolutely free, but the information is priceless. So whenever you're listening to this episode, either there's one just ended or there's one coming up. So you guys can go to forgivenessmission.com in order to sign up for our next free virtual workshop. So make sure you guys check that out. Last but not least, I am also happy to announce one of the things that we have done is we have started our non-for-profit organization, which is Deal to Heal the World Incorporated. And we have recently just got our 501c approval letter. So now your donations are tax deductible. So make sure you guys go and check us out to help us to donate. We wanted to do more stuff in the community, but we wanted to do it free for the community. But we do know that there are costs associated with everything that we do. So your donations will allow us to go more into the community and do more things for the community, but at no cost to the community. So make sure you guys go. The information will be in the descriptions. You guys can go there, make your donation one time or a recurring donation to the Deal to Heal the World Incorporated, our nonprofit organization. And we thank you guys and appreciate you so very much. JC, once again, I want to say thank you so very much. I've definitely enjoyed this conversation. Can't wait to the next one. We definitely got to, when we get out, schedule the next one.
Yes. I'll be letting you know when I'm back in Chicago.
Yes. I appreciate it. And I look forward to it. Thank you once again for being on to share your story and your expertise. I want you to have the last word. So the floor is yours.
Okay, so since the floor is mine, I'm just going to leave y'all with a quick quote that I live by. Through experience, the sky is not the limit. There are galaxies beyond it. Clock that.
Okay, I was waiting for so what else? So give us your social media handles or your website, even where we can find your business at for those who want to either do business with you or take advantage of some of the workshops that you guys do.
Okay, so the best way right now, because again, this is a pivotal point, the best way to get in touch with me directly is to reach us. I know a lot of people don't have Facebook, but that's the oldest platform the Black Girls Build was on. So on Facebook, you find Black Girls Build Incorporated. Look for the logo. Can y'all see it? Look for the logo. And if you can see the logo, that is us. If you come across any other Black Girls Build, please report it. That is not us. We do own the trademark, and I need to put that out there. So again, you can reach us on Facebook, Black Girls Build Incorporated. You can reach us on Instagram, same Black Girls Build Incorporated. On YouTube, we are Black Girls Build Pretty. And on TikTok, it is simply JC Sykes. And I have a good time with all things JC Sykes. You can find the books, you can find any other thing that's associated with me, you can find on the TikTok page. So again, we do have a website. It's www.bgb2.org. www.bgb2.org. It is under construction. It's going to get where it needs to be one day. But again, you all can reach me the best way on social media, direct DM, book, schedule, collaborate, partner, sponsor, everything. We are a nonprofit organization, 501c3 approved. So if our mission aligns with yours, let's talk about it. Let's figure out how we can get these youth with drills and hammers in their hands and in a BGB t-shirt. All right. Peace and love to everybody who is listening. And thank you. Appreciate you, brother.
No problem. We can't end it no better than that. To my listeners, thank you guys once again for tuning in to the Deal to Heal with E. James podcast, where our mission is to help you to deal, heal, and fulfill, to deal with your problems, to heal from the pain, and to fulfill your purpose. Until next time, you guys be blessed.
Peace.
Hey guys, if you're enjoying this podcast, then I know you enjoy the Girl Dad Discussion podcast. I'm your host, Earnest James, and I believe the relationship between a daughter and her father is one of the most important relationships a young lady can have. And therefore, my mission is to promote the daddy-daughter relationship by sharing the voices of girl dads to the world. So check out our podcast on every platform where podcasts can be listened to. And if you want to watch the podcast, check us out on our YouTube channel. Again, that's the Girl Dad Discussions podcast with your host, Earnest James. Thanks for listening to the Deal to Heal with E. James podcast. Remember to listen, like, subscribe, and share. This episode has been brought to you by Deal to Heal Teas. Put some inspiration in your situation. Wear an inspirational tee and be inspired all day. Let's go to dealtohealteas.myshopify.com. Remember, our mission is to help you to deal, heal, and fulfill. Deal with your problem, heal from the pain, and fulfill your purpose. Thanks for listening.